The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. Sorry about my voice. We are living in a world that we don't know how the world runs. We understand nothing. Most of us believe whatever that is brought out on our media houses. So whatever they say, we go by them. And these are the people we claim are very credible. So whatever information they give to us, we accept them the way they are and we move with them. But what we don't know and what we have never asked ourselves, who controls this media? Who controls the information that we receive? Are they not being rewritten to suit other people? So, we believe that they tell us exactly what it is. They are credible. But this will shock you. Individuals control this information we receive. Other people make us what they want us to be. And that is what we need to understand and know that it's not everything that we see is actually the case. He also talked about our democracy. And we say we have democracy. According to him, it is yes or no. Because just a few people decide that we have elections. Yes. But people invest in these leaders we have elected. And at the end of the day, they do what our people who invested in their campaign and whatever election process want them to do.
Yeah. All right. It's a relatively small number of people who control the economy. That's called oligarchy. But it's not just that. How do you get the information? You're in the information business, right? Or the entertainment business. That's what you do for a living, correct? So who owns the media? You tell me.
It's a few companies now.
That's right.
Yeah, and everything's getting consolidated. It's becoming smaller and smaller. It's fewer and fewer people.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right. So what my understanding is, you have 6 large international conglomerates, media conglomerates, that control about 90% of what the American people see, hear, and read. All right, so take a look. Talk about oligarchy. Mr. Musk, is that all he does is make electric vehicles? Not quite. He owns Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what about Mr. Bezos? Well, he owns the Washington Post, which is a very influential newspaper, and he owns Twitch. Oh, what about the Ellison family? Well, they just bought Paramount, which happens to own CBS movie. All right. And then you got Mr. Zuckerberg, of course, who owns Meta, which controls Facebook and Instagram. So you got 4 of the wealthiest guys in America owning us, just those. Not to mention Rupert Murdoch, obviously owns Fox, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, right-wing newspapers all over the world. You check out who owns newspapers in the United States, billionaires by and large. So you add up income and wealth inequality, concentration of ownership, control over the media. And let me throw out another one. We talked about democracy. Well, Trevor, do we live in a democracy?
People would say yes.
And the answer is yes and no. We have elections, right? So who plays the influential role in elections? All right, let's go back just to the last election. Mr. Musk, the wealthiest guy on earth, spent $270 million to help elect Donald Trump, right? $270 million, that's true.
Yeah.
And his reward, these guys don't make investments without getting something in return. True? I mean, they don't do it out of the goodness of their heart. So forget all the tax breaks and other breaks that he got. He got to run the government for 3 or 4 months and impose his right-wing extremist ideology on the American people. I'll give you another example. There was this so-called big, beautiful bill. What happens if a Republican were to stand up and say, you know what, I looked at this bill, it ain't a good bill. And it happened. There was a guy named Tom Tillis. That name ring a bell to you? He's a senator from North Carolina, not the world's most famous senator, just kind of a typical conservative Republican. He made the mistake of actually reading the bill. And he discovered that several 100,000 people in North Carolina were going to lose their health insurance. He says, you know what, I can't support that. You know what happened to him? Literally within hours, Trump was on social media ripping the hell out of this guy. Billionaires were saying, we are going to, we got a primary opponent against you. And I think in a day, he said, forget it, I'm out of here. I'm not running for re-election. So right now, what oligarchy is about is not only controlling the economy, controlling the media, it is also controlling the political process.
Yeah.
And it's not just Republicans. Kamala Harris had some 80 billionaires contributing to her campaign. And I think that resulted in her running a much more conservative campaign than she should have run. It was an election that she should have won, in my view. She lost it because of conservative influence from the billionaires who told her not to speak up for working families. That's called oligarchy. Does that sound like an oligarchy to you?
It sounds like an oligarchy. The only thing that comes to my mind is that I think of an ecosystem. Any ecosystem goes out of balance when one species is sort of allowed to thrive by itself without a natural predator of some sort.
Billions of EU assistance going to Ukraine are not free. They're loans, which Ukraine will default on, and they come with neoliberal strings attached. If you listen to the economists, Ukraine is marked for a nightmare round of shock therapy, a sell-off of public land, deregulation of labour, sale of public assets, on it goes. The country's future is being sold to finance a proxy war that's tearing it apart. And of course the loans have preconditions that Ukraine must uphold democracy and rule of law, but since the tap was turned on, Zelensky has banned most opposition parties, shuttered the media, attacked trade unions and workers' rights, but the billions keep flowing. This is a country, our Court of Auditors have said, was a country accused of grand corruption. And on it goes while the EU policy seems designed to prevent peace and keep the war going at all costs as long as ordinary people pay. So between Russian tanks and European banks, there will be little left of Ukraine when this is over. Don't forget, war is a racket and there's going to be hell to pay for this one.
We know that our global capitalist economy is built on systemic violations of human rights for the sake of profit. In every corner of the world, you will find corporations bending, avoiding, or just plainly violating the rules to make the highest margins of profit. From Bangladesh to Palestine, from Congo to Serbia, wherever there are resources to exploit or profits to be made, you will find transnational corporations recklessly exploiting people and destroying nature. We need to put an end to corporate impunity. We need a binding treaty that holds corporations accountable globally. After hearing the EU today on the floor, we wish we could say, as Europeans, or those living in Europe, that the EU is leading by example. After all, Europe is the continent that is always lecturing the world about democracy and human rights. And yet, reality is very different. The European Commission is on a ruthless deregulation campaign, watering down workers' rights and environmental protections in Europe and abroad. Even the EU corporate due diligence law is being destroyed before even entering into force. At the same time, the EU signs free trade agreements that only serve to protect corporate interests. It's a new form of colonialism. So today, we call on states to stop siding with corporate lobbies and secure the negotiations for an ambitious, legally binding instrument. It is time to make human rights, not corporate rights, binding. Thank you.
So we need to understand that this world is not how we see it. There are a lot of things that are happening beyond our understanding. And it's not everything that we see that we must go by. Sometimes when we receive information and we try to bring out certain things, we see people who will rise up and it's like you haven't been to a journalism school, so you don't know what you are saying. But we don't know that we are being programmed in the journalism school the way other people want us to be. There are lots that we need to understand. There is nothing like democracy, especially those of us who are in some countries and we believe that we have democracy and we are doing best and the West is praising us. We should know we are doing nothing. Any country that these people are praising so well, you should know they are killing you in that country. But a lot of us still don't see that. Whatever it is, when you want to raise it, they will now start quoting the oppressor. Go to this. They said this nation is this when it comes to democracy. It's because they are getting what they want from that country without any pressure. So we need to understand things in that manner. There is nothing good happening in this continent that is benefiting the African that you see these people praising it. And that is why when things that are good are happening in Africa, they don't report about them. They always report about the negative side of the continent. And we are the ones that can tell our narrative. All the media houses that we have, other people sit there to control what we hear. They control the information. Few people controls the nation after you have voted because it is what they want that happens. So at the end of the day, do you have democracy? We need to wake up. This is information era. We need to feed ourselves with the right information so we can fight for a better Africa and regroom the future we are bringing. Until we are able to do that, we can never see the Africa we are looking for. We can never allow other people to continue to be saying the narrative to their advantage. And if we continue to move along with the people that are controlling what we are being fed with, it will be very difficult for us to change the future of Africa. This is a new generation. And fortunately for us, we are in information era. And for that matter, we need to utilize this information era to educate ourselves, to reconscientize the mentality. There can never be a new Africa when we don't have a new mindset. There is nothing that will change here if we don't change ourselves, if we don't remove the mental chains. So we need to use this information to educate ourselves so we can have a better generation. Because through this, we can be able to reshape the generations that will come. Because what they are turning us into is something that is dangerous for we Africans. Because what our youth are interested in today isn't going to help us if we don't act fast to re-educate ourselves. So that's the latest around the world and in US.